Former Stanford University swimmer Brock Turner is a free man after he was convicted of sexually assaulting an unconscious woman. Turner now has 4 days to register as a sex offender. He walked out of the Santa Clara County Jail in California yesterday after serving just 3 months of a 6-month sentence. There he is with his head held low, rushing past a crowd of reporters. He didn't say a word, as you can see, just got into a white SUV here that was waiting for him and headed home to Ohio, where he'll have to complete 3 years of probation. Now, like most offenders in California, sentenced to county jail, Turner was released under a law that gives inmates credit for time served. The sheriff was none too happy about that.
But we're done with him. He should be in prison right now, but he's not in our custody.
Okay, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Pate here, because there's been so much emotion obviously attached to this. People saying, how on earth can somebody sexually assault someone, be convicted, and serve 3 months? Explain to us the difference, and it comes down to state law here. Explain to us the difference between, say, California and Georgia.
It entirely depends on what state you're convicted in. In Georgia, there's a mandatory minimum 25 years in prison for aggravated sexual battery, and that's exactly what happened here. So it is
so that's what he would have faced had this happened in Georgia?
Absolutely, especially if he went to trial. Now, if he worked out some sort of plea ahead of time, the DA could reduce the charges, let him plead to something less than aggravated sexual battery, but he's still looking at prison time in every case in a state like Georgia.
All right, so we know that when we talk about what might come out of this case, there is legislation that's been approved in California that mandates prison time for some sexual assaults.
Yes.
Is that directly because of this case?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the legislature in California passed it unanimously. It's up for the governor to sign. You're going to see any state in the nation that does not have mandatory minimum laws for sex offense cases, they're going to pass them. They're going to catch up with other states. Some people say these laws are too severe. I mean, Georgia's 25 years mandatory minimum. California, you can get jail time, you can be out in 3 months. So there's a lot of inconsistency, a lot of lack of uniformity around the country.
Okay, so we know also, in addition to this, he has to register as a sex offender. That's going to be with him for life.
Absolutely, unless the judge lets him off of that. You don't necessarily have to stay on the sex offender registry for the rest of your life. In Georgia, if you're on it and you complete your sentence, you can go back to the court and petition to get off of it. So even though he's got to be on...
And that's an option in California as well?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so here's my question to you about that, because you mentioned the judge, and we know that there are a lot of emotions regarding this judge as well. There's a petition to have him removed. He has recused himself already from criminal cases, now just dealing with civil cases. If that plea would be made to be able to execute himself to come off the registry, would it go to that same judge, or would it go to another one?
Well, that was the sentencing judge. So in most cases, it would go back to the same judge. Now, the judge could recuse himself and say there's been too much public attention. I may have at least the perception of bias here, and I'm going to transfer it to someone else. But initially, it would go back to the same sentencing judge.
10 more seconds. Do you think that do you think the sentence fit the crime in this case?
No, absolutely not. I'm not critical of the fact he was released early. That's the way the law works. If you're in jail and you do good time, you get out early. But the sentence was incredibly low. For someone to go to trial over this, not even to admit responsibility and guilt, it's almost unimaginable.
All righty. Pate, appreciate your
you,
insight
Kristen.
so much. Thank you. Victor?
All right, the National